We do a little Lasker form.
This meeting is called to order. Now, supposedly supposed to do an announcement that we are in compliance with the open meeting laws, but I don't know what the boilerplate announcement for that is. I don't have it here.
Just read number 2 and then I'll say yes, we have compliance.
Okay. We're all in compliance with the open meeting laws? Yes. All right. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, give your name for the record. The amount of discussion as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. Is there anyone here wishing to do public comment before we get started? Okay, action to approve the final minutes by reference to the special meeting of January 24th, 2012.
Move to approve.
A second.
ARC
We have to go vote.
44343. I'm sorry, did I have to
We
say?
need to go
Oh,
vote.
sorry. So we take a vote. Does everyone approve the minutes?
Aye.
Okay. I was not there. ARC 44343, DDRC public hearing. Applicant, What's Your Need, Convenience and Gifts. Owner, Garces Venture LLC. For possible action on a request for a sign design review for an existing convenience store at 628 South Las Vegas Boulevard, PPN 129-6/319-319-140. C-2 General Commission Zone Ward 2.
Approval is requested for a proposed 25 square foot sign, which consists of a metal cabinet with the words Mini Mart in lowercase lettering against a white background and the abbreviation ATM in uppercase lettering against a black background. Below Mini Mart, the word Mini is overlaid with dark red neon, the word Mart is overlaid with clear red neon, and ATM is overlaid by clear red flashing neon. A separate cabinet in the shape of a red arrow pointing west is attached to the bottom of the first cabinet, displaying the words parking in rear in white uppercase vinyl lettering. The arrow cabinet is bordered with clear flashing red neon. The narrow face of the sign contains 2 parallel lines extending from top to bottom and the letters ATM stacked vertically between the lines. The lines and letters are formed from clear gold neon tubing. The letters flash while the lines maintain a steady burn, and the gold neon tubing is also attached to the top of the sign. The proposed sign meets the requirements of Title 1908 and the Las Vegas Boulevard Scenic Byway Overlay District, and therefore staff recommends approval.
Yeah, do we have anything?
Yes, we're Eagle One Sign Service representing the applicant and here to answer any questions that you might have about the sign. And Courtney pretty well gave a very good description of the sign on paper. And you guys have in your packets of PDFs that Steve had scanned into a PDF of as far as what the sign will look like.
Commissioners, anyone have any questions or comments?
And we had worked with, had a few bumps in the road with staff going back and forth, but we worked together to come up with a reasonable solution to be able to bring it in front of the board. So,
Madam Chair, are you, is there an existing sign on the
yes,
building?
yes, there is. There is an existing sign on the building. It's 3 foot by 7 foot, and Steve Swanton said that if we were able to locate a permit when it was permitted, and we located a permit back from 1955.
Which
That
sign
was
is it?
permitted.
Which sign?
On the photographs that Steve had scanned into the PDFs, it's the pizza sign.
Okay.
That was, we currently just refaced that to get him some signage temporarily until he gets opened up, but he would like to hold on to that sign.
So just to clarify, I assume the wrong thing then. So the Ace Jewelry sign stays?
The Ace Jewelry sign is the adjacent property.
Okay, so this just replaces the existing pizza sign?
No, we're going to hold on to the existing pizza sign and add the additional Mini Mart and ATM sign as a roof-mounted sign.
It'll still say pizza, or is that changing?
That portion of it is remaining the same because he's selling pizza in there. So that's got the pizza and the ATM in there right now. So that sign is going to remain.
I have a question for the applicant. Was there any consideration of consolidating the two signs into one sign, one new application?
At the beginning, we were going to just be adding the mini mart sign, and halfway through the process, the applicant asked us to investigate to be able to keep the grandfathered sign in. And so we're within the square footage allowed, the zoning allows 56 square feet, and between the two signs utilizing 46 square feet. So we're still within, we've got 10 square feet remaining between the two signs.
Okay. Excuse me, just for a minute.
Yes.
I see David has a picture that we don't, and I think that's what
I
Deborah
think that
was.
was- I just drew it in.
Oh, you drew that in, okay, I see. So, this is what, Chairman, that's what.
Okay.
So the question I also ask of the applicant is, does the applicant understand that if we recommend denial of this conforming sign, they have to go to council to get that sign approved?
To get the second sign approved.
Right.
And so that's what, under the recommendation of Steve Swanton, he was saying if we were able to show that the sign was permitted, which it was back in 1955, that it would fall under the grandfather clause
Okay.
of remaining in the existing
Do we
location.
have proof of a permit?
You do, it's in our file.
Okay, accept that.
The permit fees were $4 and the electrical fees were $2.
About the same today, I think.
So it was a shot in the dark finding it, but we found it on microfiche in your guys' basement. So we found the original permit.
Just for the record, my own opinion on this would be to recommend denial, and my reason would be that I think the two signs should be consolidated into one sign. I think if you stand on that street and look southward, you'll see that proliferation of signage, and I believe directly to the south of this site, there's a tattoo parlor about to go through a special use permit process, which will eventually come in for signage, and I think we're paving the way for more signage. So I think consolidation of the signage is probably, in my opinion, what's best for that area.
Okay.
And so I personally recommend denial on this, when the vote comes, just so you know where I'm at.
I'd like some clarification. So I understand the mini mart sign is going directly on top of the pizza sign?
No, not directly on top. It's going to be a roof mount. It's going to be a roof mounted sign. It's going to be mounted on the parapet above the pizza sign. The pizza sign is a flag mounted sign off of the building, and then the rooftop mounted sign is going to be mounted on top of the parapet
Right.
going this way.
And this is on the elevation,
I'm sorry. I guess I'm sorry. And there was not an opportunity to incorporate the pizza sign into the new sign?
The existing sign that's up there, the pizza sign, it's old, but it's functionable as being the visibility, because if you look on the adjacent property on where it says the iProperties has the awning, and so when you're driving southbound down towards the Stratosphere, that the amount of signage, the visibility is blocked by that blue awning. So that's one of the reasons why that he's wanting to increase his exposure that he's got.
No, I was going to say, and it's backlit? The pizza sign is backlit? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the
Drive by
pizza
the-
sign is backlit, yes.
The question for staff, is it correct what the applicant said in regards to if you had both the signs together, it still doesn't exceed the square footage?
That is correct.
I don't have as big of an issue with it since the original sign was permitted and they still don't exceed the square footage. It's just hard for me to try retroactively making somebody change their sign, but I appreciate Dave's comments too.
I guess my comments are more towards the fact that he's coming forward with an application to add signage. I think the existing sign should be incorporated into the new sign. And I doubt that, even though it says 1955, I doubt that there's an encroachment permit on file for that existing sign, which allows it to be over the right-of-way, because I believe the right-of-way is at the property line of the building, at the front edge of the building. So I noticed in their approval conditions, there's a request for an encroachment permit of the new sign. I think we probably also need to expand it for the existing sign if this is to be approved. And just one last point, I believe there's also some banners on the back side of the building which
Yeah.
are temporary in nature, and I researched, but I didn't see a temporary sign permit for those banners, so.
Yeah, and we do have this, as far as approval of the application of all non-conforming signs to be removed at the time of finalizing it off.
Well, I'll float my motion now and see what happens. I'm going to make the recommendation for denial, and I suggest the applicant reconfigure the sign so it's all one sign, and that's my motion.
Somebody second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Excuse me. Are we voting then for denial, the sign, just as David said? Those who are in favor of denial?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So we have what?
Aye.
Can we be clear for the record?
Yeah, sorry.
Who
New
voted,
with this.
who voted for it? Because I saw two down here.
For the motion?
Oh, there was a third here.
So the motion passes.
No, there's no action.
There's no action at the time.
There's no action. So I would suggest you take a motion the other way. See if that passes. It looks like you're going to have no action on that. And then if there's no action on that, then it's not approved. And the appeal, and so you know, then there'll be an opportunity to appeal this decision.
I'd like to clarify one thing on the old sign. What I heard David say is that from an encroachment standpoint, that even though it was permitted in 1952, that there was an issue on the encroachment period, on the encroachment of the old sign?
My experience is that when you have a permit that's that old, generally we don't have an encroachment permit on file for that type of encroachment to the right of way. So my motion, or my question was if it was to be approved, that we include the encroachment for the existing sign from 1955 to be part of the encroachment application, just to get it on the record for staff. That has nothing to do with my determination of how I feel a sign.
Right.
Right.
That's just an additional
Right.
condition.
Before a new motion is made, I just have one question of the applicant.
Yes.
I might be inclined to change my vote if there's any possible way that the old sign and the new sign can be aligned one with another instead of being offset the way that it's being proposed.
Okay.
Is there any way that
Yes,
one can
that
be
is-
stacked over the other one?
Yes, that is a possibility.
Because-
It's just changing the location of where it's at on the rooftop.
Okay.
So
Because
that
really,
is a possibility.
yeah, I can understand Mr. Bratcher's concern is that, you know, you've got two signs for one building and they're offset and it just kind of leads to sign clutter. But I could see if one were stacked over the other one, at least they would be in alignment and it would be a little bit neater in appearance than what is being proposed.
My question for staff on that, I thought these signs were restricted to 4-foot encroachment, which the existing sign is 7-foot encroachment. Can the new sign can a new sign encroach to 7 feet,
No, you can only encroach 4 feet as a roof sign.
which is what it's maxed
Which
out
it
at?
is.
So one's going to be set back a little bit further than the other one, but at least they'll be stacked one over the top of the other one. So I'm a little more comfortable with that.
So do you have any motion based on the new condition from?
I'd like to make a motion, follow staff's recommendations for approval with added condition that applicant files and obtains an encroachment permit, and the second added condition that the alignment of the sign, both the new and the existing sign are aligned, as Director Fagg mentioned.
Does the applicant accept those conditions?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes.
Is that those conditions, thank you. Okay, do we hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second it. Okay, and vote, okay, for?
Aye.
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 Nay.
Nay. Nay. All right, so it's, will be, the sign will be approved with the additional conditions from Director Fagg. So moving on to ARC 44579, the ARC public hearing, application 601 Fremont LLC, owner of Freedom Health Service, about the last time we talked to the Sunny Zone Review for the Tavern Limited
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I just need to mention on this that I own property across the street from this application, but have no interest in that building.
Yeah. Chairman, he can vote on this because the company in which he works for, the ownership company, will be affected no differently than anybody else in the area. So with that disclosure, he may vote on this matter.
Do you have an applicant representation? Could you state your name and,
Yeah, my name is Michael Barron. I'm the Director of Operations for the property.
okay.
The applicant requests approval of a proposed projecting wall sign, which is intended to advertise the Tavern Limited Establishment group of the site. It is sign BG2. It's proposed to be placed above the corner entrance at the intersection of 6th and Fremont. The sign is a 20-foot tall, 360 square foot bullnose sign that projects approximately 3 feet into the public right-of-way from above the entrance at the northwest corner of the building. Its cabinet is triangular shaped with the image of a billiard rack having a painted black background with circles containing numbers representing pool balls and letters spelling backstage. These letters are bordered in red neon and cycle through the lighted spelling of the word, which then flashes and holds in a steady burn. The sign contains chasing clear, bold lights along a gold-painted border. The lower portion of the sign, which is below the image of the billiard rack, contains a green background with painted white pan channel letters spelling bar and billiards that contain steady burning white neon illumination. The proposed signage meets the minimum signage requirements for the downtown entertainment overlay district, including illumination. They are within the allowed encroachment distance from the existing building and meet clearance requirements. Staff therefore recommends approval.
Yes, in a meeting prior, you met my boss, Big Daddy Carlos, you may remember. He's partners with the owner of Binions and Ford Queens, Terry Pyle. And this is a project that I'm overseeing. Now, last time Big Daddy was here, the Fremont Country Club signage concept was approved. The Backstage Sports Bar, which we're talking about today, that concept was basically approved, but at the time, Carlos asked for a little extra time pending a possible different business concept and therefore a different signage concept. And since then, we decided to go with the original Backstage Sports Bar and Billiard signage concept. That's why I'm here today. I'm going to pass out a visual of the Backstage Sports Bar and Billiard signage. It's in the exact same proportion and elevation as the one that you have in your information packet, but the only difference would be the symmetry, colors, and fonts. The sign will now the sign that we're proposing will now more resemble this visual. Okay.
Thank you.
Have you seen this before too, so it's still looking at it?
Nope, this is the first time staff has seen this.
So how do we know what percentage of the and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I would make a recommendation based on this new information that we hold this item until bring it to the next meeting.
I would tend to agree. I mean, we're only just seeing this now, so we will contact you, take a look at that and vote on anything at this time. Motion to hold this in advance until the next meeting. Can you second that motion?
Second.
And how do we vote?
Aye.
Anyone against? Okay. And we'll be voting on this one again until the next meeting. I think we can do this one.
Thank you.
to conduct the public hearing applicant 623, LLC owner, to Number Seconds LLC, for possible action on the request for sign design review for proposed tavern limited establishment at 525 Spring Street, PPM 39-34-611-017, CSG General Commercial Zoning Board 5.
I would just like to make the basic saying, this property is adjacent to the Upland Hills, of which I am an owner.
And Chairman, if I may, because this application doesn't affect your property differently than others in the area, you may feel free to vote on the side of what that disclosure.
Okay, the applicants, could you introduce yourself, please, for the record?
Michael Parks, applicant.
Richard Purvis with Yesco.
Okay. Is there anything you wish to share with us?
Basically, that we designed the signs according to the guidelines for this area. We believe it fits within all the required requirements.
This is a request for 2 wall signs, BG1 and BG2. BG1 is located on the corner of the building, the northeast corner of the building, with half of the sign on the north elevation and half on the east elevation. It's in the general shape of a peacock with the words cocktails spelled out vertically below it. There are 68 chasing illuminated white bulbs around the outside of the color-changing LED lights that make up the feathers of the peacock. There are also several stripes of gold neon located around the sign. The word cocktails are routed out, pushed through white acrylic letters with brushed gold vinyl overlay with white internal illumination. With the color-changing LED lights, the neon stripes, and the chasing bulb illuminations that the sign are included with the sign BG1, it meets the minimum standards of the overlay signage requirements. Sign BG2 is located on the north elevation. It is a wall sign that spells out Commonwealth in 1 foot by 1 foot tall letters horizontally above the main entrance. The letters have skeleton gold neon and meet the minimum requirements of the overlay signage district. Therefore, staff recommends approval for both signs.
Any comments? Any questions?
Vice Chair, one comment, I'm in favor of the sign, it's a great sign, but I had a conversation with Mr. Parks. On the property, there's a prior code enforcement violation, item number 101729 for illegal signage. And I know it's not your building, but basically the property owner had converted that storefront into an advertisement for the Western Casino, of which code enforcement has a pending fee of, I believe, $400 and some odd dollars, I want to say $80, $480, which hasn't yet been paid. So I would ask is that we add a condition requiring that fee to be paid prior to the issuance of this permit. Go ahead.
Well, Chairman, if I may, I'm not sure that we can add that as a reasonable condition as permit, because this is now saying code enforcement item. We've got a separate department that's enforcing that. So I would just caution you, I would advise that we not add that as a condition this time.
Okay.
Because we've got a separate process, legal process that takes care of the code enforcement matters.
Yeah,
I understand completely
the last action was in December,
Yeah.
and so we've been waiting for this payment of this fee, so I don't know how else we're going to collect it unless we ask someone to pay for it, to take action on something.
Generally speaking, for the commission's sake, here, planning commission, city council, we don't tie the payment of these fines to pending separate actions before the board.
And I agree, it's unfair to the applicant, because it's not his problem.
I talked to Jonathan, he said, send him an email.
Okay.
I ran into him yesterday, so he's like.
Okay, so I'll strike my comment.
So there we go.
He said,
Mission accomplished.
He said,
Pay for this building.
He said, tell Dave to send me an invoice, I'll pay it. He's like, I'm sorry, he apologized. So.
And yes, as a matter of disclosure, Jonathan Jossel, I completed work for, and he's the representative for the property owner. I have no ongoing business with him, and been paid 100% in full for all work, so I'll be looking at this matter.
and determine that's acceptable, and as he has no outstanding pecuniary obligations with him, you can go ahead and vote on this matter. I've got to say, this is the most I've spoken in this 2 years. This is amazing. All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion for approval as per staff conditions.
I will second that.
Okay, so, how did we vote?
Aye.
Late summer, August, early September. So we were just hopefully pulling permits this week. We had express plan check meeting last week and had 2 final items that we were submitting, I think, today. So we'll be pulling permits and get under construction. So looking forward to being part of the neighborhood.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Possible action on a request for a sign design review for an existing office other than listed at 1961 and 1945 South Washington Boulevard, between 162 -2 General Commercial Zone Ward 3 Company.
Good afternoon, my name is Brad Jerick with the City Attorney's Office. You probably wonder why I'm doing here, so I thought I'd explain very quickly a little bit of the background of this. It's a little bit unusual. This is Mr. Lawson. He will speak as to the sign in a moment. I do not represent him. I represent the city. About the time the culinary was about to open these buildings, they kind of got to crunch time, and it was time to put up the signs. I got a call from Mr. Lawson saying that he found out from the city that because the signs were located in an area that affects the boulevard, that they needed to be in neon. And not being terribly familiar with this part of the code myself, I said, let me check into it. So I did. Initially, I asked a member of my staff to check with planning to find out if they were eligible for a waiver. As it turns out, they were eligible. The question was whether or not staff was willing to give that waiver. Under the facts, as I understood them at the time, and still do to this day, this was not so much signage as it is building identifiers. These are buildings that I was told were used by the culinary and only the culinary. They weren't for use by members of the public, and therefore to eliminate them might actually be misleading to members of the public. If you were to say clinic or pharmacy to somebody walking down the strip, well, that might be pretty for the boulevard, and might actually mislead people and actually kind of backfire. And that's why we have waivers. So I wanted to find out, because they wanted to get these signs up immediately, if they were eligible for a waiver. And I told them, I said, you have to go before the committee. The committee's going to have to give it. But if you're willing to put them on subject to getting a waiver, taking them down if you don't get the waiver, would you be willing to do it? And he indicated yes. At that point in time, I was of the belief that staff was going to recommend a waiver for all the signs. And I communicated that to Mr. Lawson. And the next day I found that the staff was not going to recommend a waiver for all the signs, as you can see in your backup. As a result of my representation, however, the signs were made at a cost of over $8,000 and installed. And that's how quick this thing was moving. So that's why I'm here today, is to let you know that they are up. If they're up and it offends anybody, it's my fault. I made the representations. And I'll let Mr. Wilson answer any questions you have about the appropriateness of the signs and see if they're eligible for a waiver. One more thing I was informed of today by a member of Mr. Fagg's staff is that there are no permits for these signs. I believe the reason there are no permits is because there hasn't been a waiver granted yet. They couldn't even get a permit. If waivers were granted today across the board, it's been represented to me and Mr. Lawson. They have no problem paying for the permits and complying with all code requirements. With that said, I'll turn it over to Mr. Lawson.
Mr. Lawson.
I'm sorry. I haven't had this either, James.
Yes.
So I have to ask your advice on this.
Sure.
Because the property that I own has a contract with Detailer and the Culinary Union, I just want to make that, bring that out.
Yeah. Your company currently has a labor contract with Culinary for members of your staff working at Del Cortez.
That's correct.
Yeah, I would advise that you stay clear of this application and you go ahead and abstain.
Very good. I understand.
Okay. Hi, my name's Charles Lawson, owner of PDQ Printing, and I have some information I'd like to pass out. Yes, sir. Sir, would you still like to have it? Thank you. Thank you, sir.
We've got to be on this day, huh?
So, shall I begin or opening question I should start with?
Well, I guess, perhaps you're having us now, how does this differ from the packet that we've already received? Different things that are vastly differently,
These are merely copies of the packets that were submitted during the variance application process, but I was told to bring 10 copies to the meetings. That's what I just handed out. So it's quite possible they don't differ. Okay. Then I will follow your lead.
Vice Chair? I visited the site, and I know the staff has to follow code, and the way the scenic byway is written is if you're on a parcel of land. It doesn't have anything to do with the orientation toward the boulevard. And I visited the site, and I saw how these signs are orientated away from the scenic byway, actually. And I think we have some precedents on some properties on Las Vegas Boulevard where the parcel encompasses more than just the frontage, and we've made accommodations in those in the past. So I'm willing to accept the application as proposed with staff conditions for approval based on the current application before us.
Okay, and I do remember reading that it's saying that this one impression as well, I think it's like the Stewart, just showing how it goes here. By a building that's ahead of it. So we-
Correct.
Did we get
That's correct.
Did we get staff report?
We do not have a staff report, do we? We'll move to that and we'll report it.
The applicant has installed 3 wall-mounted signs at 1945 and 1961 Las Vegas Boulevard South. It is located within the Scenic Byway Overlay District. The north-facing sign at 1945 is approximately 65.8 square feet in area, contains no neon or animation. The east-facing sign, also located at 1945 Las Vegas Boulevard South, is approximately 36.4 square feet in area and also contains no neon or animation. The east-facing sign at 1961 Las Vegas Boulevard South is approximately 33 square feet in area, contains no neon or animation. All 3 signs are composed of glass block injection molded acrylic letters and flush mounted to the facades of the building. All 3 signs meet the requirements for a maximum number and area. However, none of the signs meet the requirements for the 75% neon or animation for scenic byway and would require a waiver of this standard. Staff can support the waiver for the east-facing wall signs at 1945 and 1961 Las Vegas Boulevard South, as they face the interior of the shopping center and cannot be seen from Las Vegas Boulevard. However, staff recommends denial of the request for a waiver of the neon animation requirements for the north-facing sign located at 1945 Las Vegas Boulevard South, as it can be seen from the byway.
I have a question. Are the buildings owned by the culinary?
That's a question I don't know. I can't answer that. I've never asked them.
Does anybody know? No building is owned by the
So St. Louis Square means.
We'll say about the property, about the building.
I suspect based on the way the application is pulled out that they rent from the owner of the building. I don't think that they own them, I've never done an impression that they own them.
The property owner is listed as St. Louis Square Inc.
I guess the only concern I would have is that if this recommendation to approve this, then what happens to the next potential tenant based on this recommendation?
You can limit your waiver for this particular use only at this particular time, so that if there's commercial use in the future, you haven't waived the right to something.
Do we have any other?
It's not illuminated.
That's correct.
Okay. And you're not open at night, so
That's correct.
Right.
therefore it won't be attracting people there.
Correct.
Based on the staff report, I would amend my recommendation for approval, subject to staff conditions, with a waiver for the signage that is non-illuminated and faces Las Vegas Boulevard.
And that's only condition 2 that is limited just to the culinary right now, future
Right.
use would not.
Just for this application.
Doesn't face Las Vegas Boulevard, does it?
one is visible from the boulevard, two are not as visible, but I think, if I understood your motion, it was to go along with staff's recommendation for the waiver of the two signs that don't face the boulevard, overrule staff on the third one and give a waiver for that one, and limit it only to this applicant in this particular use by the culinary. If it's another commercial use or other use in the future.
Any new sign would come before us anyway.
And I'll come back.
So again, the basis for granting the waivers would be that this location is not open to the general public, and any other commercial properties or ventures within the center would be subject to the scenic byway overlay. So as long as that's clear in the record.
You said it. Do you have a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, and those for?
Aye.
Aye.
So, the motion is approved.
May I ask one question, please? Since this came up and we've been in this process, the culinary has contacted me again and asked, and there's a photo of this, in the final section of that packet where it's nothing but photos, there is a photo in the upper left corner labeled 1921. It's a rather dark photo, I apologize for that. But to orient the photograph, the very first page of that packet of photos is the overview. Where you see buildings 2 and 1 labeled, if you go to this area that I'm pointing at, this building right here, which is the most offset building from the boulevard, but faces directly the boulevard. The front of this building is represented in this photo, 1921. They are now asking if, and I'm asking for your advice on this now, they would like to now remove the channel letters that you can see in that photo to the right and replace them, same wording, replace them with the exact style of letters that you've just discussed for the variance.
No, here's the thing. He's asking this commission for some advice. One, we're on an agenda for this. Two, this isn't what it is you do for a living. This is really staff's responsibility. So what I would do very quickly is just end with, please contact our planning department.
Excellent. Terrific. Thank you very much for your time.
I shouldn't have.
Okay, we've got public comment.
Scenic byway starts at Sahara.
Yes.
Boulevard all the way to
Washington.
And this is at St. Louis, right?
Yes.
Building, that's it.
Yes. Okay, moving on to public comment portion here, citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the committee. These subjects may be acted upon by the committee unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, please remain for the records. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. That's it. There's nobody here to do any further discussion, so I move to adjourn the meeting.
I can second that.